We've got the absolute pleasure of having these two amazing women join me to have a bit of a chat about nursing in New Zealand. We have Terri in the gorgeous indigo and lovely Sam with wonderful hair, which has been commented on prior to the recording, who is also joining us. Both have come to New Zealand this year, and we just thought it would be a great opportunity to have a chat online, so others that are thinking about making the move over to New Zealand can get a bit of information from there. So I'm not going to do too much of the talking. I'm going to do a lot of the listening, which will be great. And so I really think it will be wonderful if Sam and Terri, first of all, if we start off, if you could introduce yourselves, just let us know where you've come from to get to where you are today, and then we'll just have a bit of a chat about what it's like being an international nurse in New Zealand. So perhaps Sam, for you, if you'd like to start, that'd be great.
I'm Sam. I'm from the Midwest, Iowa specifically. I'm an operating room or theater nurse, as we call it here in New Zealand. I've got 15 years of nursing experience in the United States. We only just got here August 14th, already loving it. Came here with my husband and my 4 kids. Wow. We live in Christchurch, and I work at a private hospital in the surgical department.
Fabulous. Thanks, Sam. And over to you, Terri.
I am sort of the opposite. I'm from the U.S., from the Pacific Northwest, in Seattle area. I've worked both in the metro there as well as a lot of critical access. I've also worked in the deep south in North Carolina. I've been a nurse for 17 years. My specialties are emergency medicine and critical care, and I've done transport medicine as well for a fairly long time, on and off. I get a little bored, so I change roles a lot, and I've done just a tiny bit of PACU as well. So I've done a little bit of those kinds of things. I came by myself, and I got here on, I think I put my feet on the soil on the 16th of March. So I've got about 6 months of time ahead of you. But I think that our journeys will be more similar than different, but we're coming at it certainly from a couple of different perspectives. So, yeah. Oh, and I had travel nursed a ton before I came here. So I think possibly some of the people watching who are the kind of adventurous souls who decide to come to New Zealand may also come from that travel background. So I think that may help as well, just because I'm used to being in a lot of different kinds of places.
Mm-hmm. And Terri, where have you landed? Where are you working now?
Oh, I am on the west coast of the South Island in Greymouth, end of Highway 73. Awesome South Island. I'm in a small community hospital called Tanuku Hospital, and it's awesome.
Right.
Oh, and it's DHB. It's a public hospital. I'm sorry, I'm clapping. I'm making noise. It's public hospital, so it's sort of the other half of the health system. And perfect. I'm also deeply rural, and I know you're in Christchurch. You're in the city.
Very urban here.
Yeah.
Which is great. And that's one of the great things I think about having you both on, is that you've both sort of flipped, like you said, Terri. So right. Sam, coming from sort of a more of a rural environment, has gone to one of the major cities in New Zealand. And then Terri, you've gone from Seattle, which is massive, down to Greymouth, which is tiny. Right. And also good because we'll be able to compare what it's like being in the private hospital system versus also being in the public system. So that's wonderful. I guess probably for our listeners, the first thing, and they may be sort of sitting in their seats at home thinking, oh, shall I come? Shall I not? Or, what was the driver for both of you to come over here? What made you choose New Zealand?
Being that I have 4 kids, like our biggest thing was safety and just a good upbringing for them. It's not a secret that there's gun violence in the United States. And when it was hitting the rural communities, a town half my size, when we only had a town of 5,000, I said, we have to get these kids to someplace safer. We had actually been toying with the idea of New Zealand since the 2016 presidential election.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just kind of kept building, kept kind of researching, kept looking into it. And I had gotten an email from the immigration, because I had put in my interest with the immigration board a long time ago, and they emailed me and I said, you know what, I think it's a sign. I think it's time to go.
Right. So obviously there's a lot of thought, isn't there, in making
Oh,
such a big move. But great. What about you, Terri? Why New Zealand?
Got that put together. So for me, I always thought in the back of my mind it would be really cool to do, this is before I was even a nurse, it'd be really cool to do work outside of the country and like experience a different culture. So that had always been the background, but I was not nearly that together. I can say that in 2016, and I realized that our culture was moving into a place where it was incredibly divisive, incredibly angry. And that was just not right. Everything was super polarized. And that was just not something that I really felt resonated with me. That was just not an angry environment like that. It was not a place I wanted to be. So there was that going on. The pandemic caused me and every other nurse I knew, I was working in the emergency room at the time, to get super burned out. And things sort of didn't get better. And for the last 10 years in emergency medicine, things have continued to get more stressful and more stressed, and fewer resources and angrier patients and more violence happening to the staff in the ER. And it was a situation where I just couldn't picture staying on that treadmill for another 10 years. And I started looking at finances and saying, you know what, I'm going to work till the day I die here. And in the US, constantly being pushed to work more hours and more overtime because there's more staff shortages. And no matter what you do, there is never enough. And then I started thinking, this feels so unsustainable. I have two choices. I can either leave medicine altogether, get out of nursing, figure out what else to do. And there are the golden shackles where you get paid well. So like finding a plan B was challenging, right? So I knew I either needed to leave nursing or I needed to find a place where I could do it, where I could go back to the things that I loved, go back to the reason I got into it in the first place. So I thought somebody has to be doing it better than we are. Somebody has to be taking care of patients in a way that's effective, because I just felt like the system was failing all around me all the time. And I decided that I wanted to start looking at a place where the health system seemed to be doing a better job of taking care of the patients, because that was what was just breaking apart of seeing this fail over and over again. Yeah. So I had a bucket list plan of, you know, I'm not going to wait anymore after the pandemic. People died and tomorrow's never promised. And I had narrowed. So I wanted a bucket list trip to New Zealand, but I also was thinking by then of wanting to go somewhere where I could enjoy my life more, where I could rekindle that love for nursing, and where I could live. And then I got here, and I'm just on holiday, on vacation, and it was incredible. And I felt so safe, and I felt so embraced, and it was like the angels sang, and it was awesome, because all the things that were just this constant weight that was constantly on me, no matter what I did, you were always worried about something, right? And I got here, and that was fun, right? And I felt safe, and there wasn't all this pressure, and it was like, okay, I want to figure out how to feel like this all the time. And went back to the States and immediately was like, okay, this is something I need to do. And that's the first time I looked at it seriously, saying, let's see if I can do this. So I was a little more impulsive.
Yeah, well, when you're also flying solo, you've kind of able to be a bit more impulsive, which is great. Yeah. So Sam, because Terri obviously got the opportunity to come and have a little preview before she did, try before you buy. But Sam, from my recollection, you hadn't ever been to New Zealand.
Yeah, my pathway is different. Very, very wild, very adventurous spirit of me. I literally have never been to New Zealand, never set foot on the soil until we immigrated here.
And that's goes the same for your family, doesn't it? They hadn't been here before.
Nope. I have relatives that have come here on vacation. I had friends that came here on vacation. Like, people came here multiple times, which was enough for me. But I also just knew of the culture. I like researched the data, looked into the
Right.
country, looked into like the nursing morality and the ethics and everything. And I was drawn into that way back in 2016. But I don't know, it's kind of like having kids where you can babysit, but it's never like having your own children, you know? So
Right.
to me, I was like, you know what? Why vacation? Because it's not going to be the same as working and living there. So we just took a huge leap and a huge leap of faith and came here, all 6 of us, with only 2 suitcases each. That's all we had to our names was
Wow.
12 suitcases altogether. And it's worked out fine. And everyone's been fine. And it's just one of those things where if you have, like Terri said, an adventurous spirit and you have that drive to try something new, you can always go back, but you're not going to want to.
Yeah,
Right.
and I mean, I guess I know both of you have now got your residency, which is fantastic. So yes, of course you can go back, but you also have the choice to go back and come back, which is fabulous.
Yeah, you have those options where if you got homesick and wanted to spend time, or if you had a sick relative, you could go back and spend time. It's not, you know, like forever. There's nothing you can't be undone, you know. I just think it's really important to try.
Totally.
So that was one of the things that really struck me is when it got real, when it got very real that it was possible, then it got a little terrifying. Like I felt like I would never see home again. And I started thinking about all the things that I haven't done in the US, and it felt very overwhelming to leave home. And then I realized, wait, the airports won't stop working. It will be okay. You can actually go both directions. You are not trapped in either country. Well, after I got a visa, not trapped in either country. So then I was like, there is no downside of seeing if I can have a better life somewhere. So do it. Anyway,
Exactly.
that was fun.
But once you get here, you're not going to want to leave because you're not going to have, like Terri hit on it, like that moral injury of going to work and feeling like you're not doing a good job and not taking care of your patients. You don't have their best interests at heart because it's more financially motivated than it is care focused. Where here, it's completely care focused. They've taken finances out of it. It's just come in, get better, heal, be ready, then go home. And it's so refreshing. Right. You don't go home feeling like you did harm, you know, by discharging that person home when you know you shouldn't have. So it's a lot better.
Here's the ER nurse part of me, right? And the ICU part of me is one of the places that was a super big driver, because you had asked about that, was that nurses started being hauled into court for stuff. And you started having people being arrested for criminal acts that were accidents. And I won't go into those cases because there are a lot of subtle nuances about the individual situations. But what it started to do was it made me feel more and more defensive. And within the litigious lawsuit-oriented culture that we have in the US, I started feeling like my energy had to go into hitting the blocks that admin wants so they can bill properly, and then hitting the blocks that the lawyers will want, because one day, someday, even despite my best intentions, I'm going to be hauled into court if I did something right or not, right? And so there's this tiny, getting smaller and smaller piece of what I got to put my energy into every day that had to do with patients. Yeah. And that was a dynamic that was insanity to me. Just insanity that here's the empty I have this tiny sliver in the middle that goes to the patients. And then as soon as you come to New Zealand with the change in how litigation works here, and I know I'm talking lawsuits now, nobody's going to care, but the change in how litigation works here, the assumption in New Zealand that people have the best interests at heart culturally is present, but also within just the way they pursue healthcare. And then add to that you can actually take care of people and you're not a production machine to produce bills and profit. That was a huge driver and one of the biggest differences that I've seen here.
Right. Yeah. What else have you noticed that's really different?
Oh my gosh, there are so many things, but it was stuff I wasn't expecting. And I'm curious how it plays out in theater. And also I'm still getting used to calling something theater. Anyway, so
theater. OR. Say OR, they're gonna look at you like that, 2 heads.
I still mess it up. Things as simple as working on the floor. Now it's starting to feel weird to say that. When you're working on the floor, you're in med-surg, you're in tele, you're wherever, but you're on the floor. but it's a word here, and I'm not used to saying word, and it still feels strange coming out of my mouth. So it's things as simple as what is the name of the floor of the building that you're on called? And so something as simple as it being a word. Some of the drugs have different names. A lot of the drugs have different names. But then simple things that I wasn't expecting, like they spell different here.
Yes, R-E, not E-R. Get it right.
Yeah. Yeah, like the medical slang for things is different here. And just some of the things I wasn't expecting, like if you give nitroglycerin for chest pain, at home you'd abbreviate that NTG, and here it's GTN. And so I went into the report, and they were talking about, we gave the patient GTN, and I'm like, oh man, what is that? I would have just given nitro. And then I was like, oh, never mind, I did. And so it's simple stuff like that. I have way more examples, but the other thing that was huge for me, and you don't review a lot of labs, I don't think, but in my role, you're constantly looking at lab values, putting together like, okay, what is the next test that needs to be done? What are the criticals? Kind of putting together the picture in your head of what's going on with the patient. And the scales that we use are a different scale here. So totally different.
And I'm like, their hemoglobin's in the triple digits? And they're like, no, we moved the decimal point. I'm like, what?
Exactly. But like, with the hemoglobin is 97? What? Anyway. Or
it's so
the one that got me was blood sugar, because the person's blood sugar was like 10 or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, we got to ask, because in the US, that scale would be a person who's critically ill that needs to have blood sugar right now because they're about to see these terrible things are happening and all like this. And everybody's all like, yeah, and the blood sugar's 10. And I'm like, isn't anybody a little alarmed about that? I'd be a little alarmed about it, only to realize that no, it's a totally different scale. That's a little bit high. Normal here is 3.5, 5.5, right? Or 7 or whatever. And I can't remember. This is one of the things I'm still working on memorizing. But it's like totally different. So I'd go into situations expecting one thing and see something totally different. I'd be hearing abbreviations for things, only here they mean something different. And it was as simple as like an IV, like, ER nurses, we love to put an IV right in your elbow there. That's called the AC, or incubital space. Yeah, IV in the AC. However, here it's a lure, at least for many people, a lure, not an IV, and this is called the ACF. So I came into a report one day, which, by the way, isn't report here, it's called handover, right? Which makes sense, report handover. But yeah, I said, okay, I'm ready for report, and they're like, report about what? And handover. Okay, so that, and so they were like, oh yeah, the patient has a lure, it is ACF. And I'd be like, I don't know where that is. Did he get a fishing lure stuck in his arm? What's going on? Anyway, I was very confused. I was like, do we have a foreign body stuck in somebody's arm? Okay, it's like your shift. You've been here for 5 hours. I don't know why you didn't take it out, but okay, fine. Anyway, only discover, oh wait, no, they did me a favor by putting in an IV. Let me back up and be grateful. So I'm not really a jerk. I don't say those things out loud, but I do occasionally wonder things. But that's just because I'm an ER person, and we just have that personality. Anyway, so the other thing that I found here, and some of that is encapsulated in that statement, is that here nurses don't set each other up to fail the way I was seeing in the States. It's a pretty
There's none. In the theater, that's unheard of. They eat their young like crazy. Here they get students involved. The students are scrubbing in. The students are helping with the case. They're helping hold retractors. It's insanity. I'm like, in the States, they would put you in the corner and say, don't touch anything blue. And they'd scream at you. Yes.
I remember you stood against the wall because you weren't allowed to get anywhere near anything. Yeah. And that's not and it's not 100% true. That does exist a little bit, but it's not infused in the culture the way it is in the US. So just your entry into profession can be much, much more seamless and much more supportive. There's always, bad apples here and there. But it took me a little while to kind of adjust my thinking one of the first, like, it was my third day, I was afraid to admit how overwhelmed and scared I was my first few days, because it was so different and so scary and so overwhelming, right? So I'm trying to look really cool. And then, like, partway through my first day, they sent me to a tea break. And I was like, a tea break? And what is a tea break? Do they, like, give me tea? What is this? Anyway, and so they sent me, and I went to go have a little break, and they gave me a cup of tea, and it was great. And I thought, okay, this is cool. They must kind of sense that I'm overwhelmed. They're being nice to me, all this kind of other stuff. The next day, they sent me on a tea break again. And I didn't quite understand what that was about, but okay, maybe I'm not looking as good as I think I am. Maybe they see I'm overwhelmed and just want to be really nice to me. And so then the third day, they go to send me on a tea break, and I actually stopped and I said, okay, do you guys do this for everybody? Are you just being, like, extra nice to me because I'm like, no? And they were confused. And that's when I discovered that it is a normal expectation here that you get breaks and lunch. And that was miraculous. Like, that had not happened in ages in the States.
I have to say that when I came down to visit you two, a few weeks ago, one of my biggest shocks was when Sam, you said to me, "Oh wow, I got to have a break, and do you know what? There's tables in the break room." I was like, "What do you mean tables? Of course, there's tables in the break room." She said, "Somewhere to actually put your food to eat while you're having a break." And I just was gobsmacked that when Sam said, usually we just eat on our knees whilst working.
Yes, exactly. That's not a table I've had for like 10 years.
It's the first time I've had a proper break room and, like, proper breaks in a long time. And, like, you hit on another point though, Terri, like, you don't have to be suspicious about people's kindness. Like, they're just genuinely kind. Like, if they say, "Can I speak to you in my office?" they're literally like, "Let's just have a chit chat. How is it going?" And it's like, you're so used to the States, you're primed to get, like, fired or yelled at or written up for some technical error or some charting thing. Here it's just, how's it going? How do you like it? Do you feel comfortable? What?
Yeah.
I'm not used to not feeling tense. And I think they understand now that I get tense. I'm like, "We're just talking about the roster when I hang out." And I'm like, okay, instead of "come with me." Why? You don't have to be afraid here. Everyone's culturally very different. They want to make sure that everyone's happy and safe and doing good work.
Well, and
which makes sense, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Sam, you read it immediately, and I just realized, Robyn, you might not have. What was hiding inside that "you're being nice to me" was my expectation that they believed I was failing and they made a bad hire.
Ding.
That was what I was hearing with making sure I get a break, only to discover that no, getting a break is a normal place here. And it makes total sense. It's been, like, the American Nurses Association for years has said people need breaks, people need lunches, all that kind of stuff, because that's how we stay safe. That's how your brain gets refreshed. New Zealand actually recognizes that, and that's amazing and awesome.
And ultimately, that's it for the patient's benefit, isn't it? Because then you're at your best and giving the best service that you can to your patients.
Your brain needs it's crazy.
But it is crazy that we're even having to talk about that. It's crazy.
But I can tell you, your American nurses that read this or see this, like, they're going to relate to that idea of, like, I would eat to the last second I hit the door because I knew I wasn't going to eat again for 12 hours. And if somebody is kind to you, most of the time, it's code for you're not measuring up. And here, it's just kindness. You don't have to read through it. You don't have to figure out what you did wrong. It's great.
Yeah, you don't have to wonder about people's alternative motives. Like, what are they doing? Like, what are they trying to say? What are they implying? It's like, no, everyone's just very kind. And some of the hugest differences in the theater, and this is kind of like this in the States too, just doctor to doctor, hospital to hospital. Instruments are called different things. Medications might be referred to as different things. Like, we don't say epi, we say adrenaline, we don't say a SENS retractor, we say pause, but it's like, you just learn the minutia, but the biggest startle to me was my first day in theater when I said, yes, sir, to the surgeon, opening him gloves, opening him whatever he needed. And he was like, oh, sir, I could get used to that. And everyone started busting out because they refer to every surgeon by their first name basis.
Too. Yeah.
I'm like, what? So he's Tom? Like, in the States, you would never, ever, ever dream of not saying Dr. Smith, Dr. Jones, and just bowing to them and yes sir, no sir, don't make eye contact. Here they sit with you in the tea room and they ask you about your kids and they care about you as a person. I was scrubbed in yesterday to a lengthy case and I was assisting. And she's asking me questions. What do you think of this? I've never been asked that before in my whole life. Like, what? You want to know what my opinion is? You know what? I think we should use the scissors. I've never felt like a team member, always a subordinate, always less than. But here you are raised up and you feel like a actual functional member of the team. Right. And another thing, and don't come for me, people in the comments, don't come for me about this statement I'm going to make. There's no scrub techs, so there's no more drama. It's all RNs that learn to scrub. And it's just a level playing field. There's no more this head this big, can't be told nothing. I went to school for a year to learn this attitude. It's everybody learning, everybody supporting each other. We often say, yes, sister, let me help you, sister. And it's just like, let me help you, brother, because it feels like a family and you're just all learning together and we're all human and we all accept each other's errors or missteps and you just move forward with it and learn from it. It's not punitive like in the United States where you made to feel about this big if you make an error. It's just, we're all human. You're going to make errors every single day. We do every day and you're not made to feel less than. And I feel like those are the biggest things. Oh, and before I forget, the time clock situation. We use like the UKG, like the Chronos, just like in the States at my facility. Like in the States, though, you have to clock in and be theater ready, OR ready. If your shift starts at 6:30, you have to be gowned, ready to go at 6:30 at the time clock and not clock in 7 minutes too early, or you might get written up for clocking in too early. Here, you just clock in when you show up. They fix it.
Right.
If you're meant to be here at 11 and you got here at 10:30 to avoid the crowd in the locker room, they just fix it. They just change it to 11. And you don't have to be theater ready. You go up, you sit, and you get your coffee. You listen to the morning debriefing. We hear about all the news going on, so there's no mystery. Like the Neptunes aren't working. Okay. Good to know. Like, thank you for knowledge sharing. It's completely different than in the States. Like, you got to get dressed. You got to go clock in, not a minute too early, or you'll get yelled at. And then you go to theater when you're done with your tea break. It's insanity. It's so nice. I can't say it enough. It is so nice.
I will say, I'm going to contrast that a little bit. First of all, you have described absolutely every reason why I never became a surgical nurse. But anyway, moving on. In the States, it was just too much. In the specialties that I was in the U.S., there was typically a lot more first name interaction with physicians in the emergency department. But what I will say is I moved back to critical care coming into New Zealand, and up on the wards, it's the same. So you have this multidisciplinary team coming together. The U.S. has been giving lip service to this for years, but it hasn't really truly become integrated into culture yet, where you have everybody has a voice at the table, everybody brings something to the table. Yes. And instead of being occasionally graced the opportunity to enter that conversation when you're inpatient, now you are actually part of the conversation. You are actually seen as a person who is bringing your own professional knowledge and experience and observations to the table. And in the ER, I had seen that some just because of the nature of the environment. It's very much small team, us against the world kind of thing. However, in New Zealand, it doesn't feel like us against the world. It just feels like us. And so that was another thing that was very big and different.
Yeah, great way of saying it, Terri.
Yeah, so that was true. So I had first name doctor situations, but never out of the ER. And here in the whole hospital, I keep I have occasionally trouble finding doctors because on the name badges it has the doctor's name, and they say, "Oh, it's Josh." And which one's Josh? I can't remember.
Which one's
Josh?
Yeah, exactly.
And so
Oh,
everybody calls him by first name, and I'm so used to saying. They freaked out a little bit. I was like sir and doctor and things like that, and everybody's. One of them was actually like, "Do you not like me? Because like I'm friendly." And it was so funny because it was the opposite extreme where I think I actually made him like I was like, slighting him because I wouldn't use his name. And I was like, no, it's just so weird, sir. It's just so weird.
Or like looking at
All those things
that
to
has a
get
surname that could be a first name, like James, and you're looking for like a Dr. James, and it's like, no, this is first name.
Exactly.
It's James Smith, and it's like, oh, I had no idea because it's just so foreign to us
Sorry.
to feel
It's
comfortable. Oh, and
just
another
trying to
big
get it back a bit. I was also it'd be quite good if you both can tell us a little bit about the journey to get here in regards to what did you find were the biggest hurdles to actually get here and get your job offer and come through. And then obviously once you were here, how did you go about finding accommodation, all those sorts of things? It'd be quite good, I think, for our listeners, because they'll be sitting probably at the stage of perhaps starting the registration and thinking, oh, this is starting to look a bit daunting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So we could talk to
I'm
them.
wondering, I thought about that, but I know that things changed a lot after I went through because they were in the process of revising things. Can you mention right now about what the timelines are? Because you deal with that every day, so you probably know what's
still,
happening.
unfortunately, very much the same timelines that you had, Terri.
Oh,
It is still
Don't know.
taking a long time to get the registration through once it hits the New Zealand Nursing Board. So they're still saying 5 months on their website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But as we know, if you've got a job offer, we can help expedite that.
Yes, it really helps working with like a lovely company such as Working In. Highly, highly,
Mhm.
highly recommend.
And that's not a paid ad.
No, it's not a paid ad. Do not try to do it on your own. Do not do it. Like, use them. They're great. They hooked us up with Flight to get us over here. So they had done all of our bookings for us, figured out all like the transfer flights because like the closest airport in the Midwest to us was Omaha. Well, they don't have an international airport. So then we had to have and figuring out all those logistics with 4 kids, like it was a huge thing, and Working In helped hook us up with the companies to get the job done correctly. Like we even had Tenant, which is the company they referred us to for our accommodations once we got here for renting a home. And then Working In became our references. Like you could say, oh yeah, Sam's a good tenant. She'll be a good tenant here for you, because we had never rented a home before in our lives. We'd only ever owned. So we had no landlord to say what kind of person we were. So it was quite funny because like Working In had to hold my hand, such as it were, through the whole thing, help me find my job that I love. I absolutely love the theater here. So it's just incredible.
Awesome.
I'm gonna just comment here. The thing that leaps out at me, as I've lived in both very small towns and large cities, but I've been a renter for 30 years. So we are like the total opposite end of the world. And for me, I could just like grab a bag and walk to an airport. It's like we have such different journeys. I will. My process is a little bit older, so possibly out of date. But I can tell you that I read through all the websites. Because there is good, solid information about the immigration process and how to become a nurse. However, I looked at it and it was talking about CAP courses and talking about requirements and talking about things that didn't make sense to me, and I didn't know what applied and I didn't know what didn't apply. And I looked at it when I came back from holiday vacation in March, and it was just a little bit overwhelming. So I sat on it and I didn't do anything for a couple of months. And then as I'm back in that daily grind, back very much in my face of all the things that are such in stark contrast, I thought, I just can't do this. I've got to get out of here. And then politics were happening, and like the politics of hate were getting even bigger in the States. And I was like, I just can't do it anymore, was my feeling. And so I ended up at that point searching the internet, scouring the internet for anything that was an American nurse talking about coming to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And there is nothing about
There's
that
nothing.
there.
Don't look for it. It's there.
Right. Yes, at least there wasn't at the time. And after doing, I was working at a critical access hospital, and they see about 20 patients a day. And luck of the draw, we didn't see very many patients that night. So I spent the whole night trying to find information about coming to New Zealand, figuring, like, if I need to fix something, I hit YouTube these days. Somebody has a video about how to fix the thing. So it's like, somebody has to have a video about how to do this, like what it's actually like, not just like what's written on a website. No. And then finally, I found one video with Robyn from working in, talking to somebody for like an hour, and it was like, I have hope. And then I searched, I went back and had to like figure out the name, and then I searched and I found working in, and I was like, yes, they still exist, someone can help me. And that was the feeling. In case you're wondering, I was so nervous. I think my first, I could be wrong, but one of my first meetings with you, or one of the meetings that I had, it was dark because it was midnight, and I didn't care because I wanted to meet with you guys, and it was like the only time that worked. Anyway, so then I contacted Working In, super nervous, very afraid of being rejected. I really, really wanted to go to New Zealand at this point. And while now it's very much an affirmative move that I was going to something good, there was a big piece of it that I was trying to flee something that I felt like was killing me, and I was not going to be able to continue to do. And if I talk about it, I'm going to get really emotional, because I was like, this is killing me. I can't keep doing this. Anyway, so I reached out to Working In. I said, hey, this is me. I'm well-qualified nurse. I'm interested in going to New Zealand, trying to feel really cool about it. And like, please take me. I promise I'd be a good catch. Anyway, and then it got to on the phone.
And you will.
Zoom. Yeah, we did a quick Zoom. And you talked me through what the process was. And the process, in case anybody wants to know, is you first, one of the steps if you're going to work in New Zealand is you have to get licensed in New Zealand. And so I wanted to know what that process was. And it's very much like reciprocity in the States. If you've got more than one nursing license, you've already done essentially the same thing. When you do that process, the first thing you do is submit documents to an organization called CGFNS. Robyn can tell you more about it. They vet all of your documents so that we can see that like you are not a federally wanted criminal and you actually did go to college, etc. So you can see that you meet all the criteria. Once they do that, you send that to the nursing council, and the nursing council, I remember to call them not a nursing board. Proud of me, aren't you, Sam?
I think I said board before.
Yeah, it's a nursing board, but it's a nursing council, I think is what they're officially called. Yeah, anyway, so then they send that report to the nursing council that says, yes, she's vetted, she's got the right like criteria, she meets all the standards, and then you apply to them, you get the license. Then the next step would be getting a visa. But I didn't do it in the right order. So what I did was say, hey, Robyn, I really want to get a job in New Zealand. And you were like, cool, we can help you do that. Here's the information about how to go about it. And I immediately was in the States, like once you decide you want to do something, I'm used to just being able to do it like right now. The hardest thing about integration for me was that I was used to being able to like type A my way through things and just make them happen. And it doesn't work that way. This process.
Patience is required.
Patience is required, more so than I had expected. So I reached out. I had I think I have very good credentials. And I knew where I wanted to go when I'd been on holiday. I love the West Coast of the South Island. I knew that's exactly where I wanted to go. I had the right credentials for the kinds of rare skills that you like rural areas just don't have people with rarefied skill sets, and I had a rarefied skill set, being that I've worked in transport, I've worked in critical care, and I've worked in the emergency department. All of those are things that are skills that take time. And so I said, hey, that's where I want to go. And you're like, cool, we can help arrange that interview for you if you want. Well, you said you like cast out the things like, where would I want to work? What do I want to do? And then you reached out to, at the time, the DHB was hiring everywhere, to see kind of what things matter. And you came back to me within days of like, this is perfect job. Like that's not, you didn't say that. I said that. I was like, oh my God, that's the perfect job. And arranged the interview. And so then I went ahead and had the interview and got the job. Yes. However, I hadn't done it in quite the right order because I still didn't have a nursing license. So I couldn't actually get a visa and come yet. And I did just close that in the interview so they knew what was going on. And so then I went to submit everything to CGFNS and lost my passport, which I had to get reissued, and that took several weeks. And so CGFNS did move, and then CGFNS takes notoriously forever to review documents. So that was several months or a couple of months. And then I submitted all my documents to the Nursing Council, and the Nursing Council website went down. And then they were backed up because it had been down. And then there had been a pileup in immigration CGFNS. So then all the people who were in the backup were submitting at the same time. So then there was this giant delay. So it's like, instead of just a few weeks, it was like 3 months. I'm sorry, I'm going on. It's like 3 months, maybe more, to get the actual license. And then once I have the license, then I can apply for the visas. And so then at this point, we're all the way through the process of like visas. And by now I'm past the date when I told them I would be there. And I'm feeling super stressed. Like, oh my gosh, now I'm not even in New Zealand yet. I don't even have a visa. I'm going to lose the job. It's going to be terrible. And it was so good that you guys are patient over at Working In, because I would call and say, okay, is there any news yet? And they'd be like, no, and they would check. And I was a bit of a basket case, and I was working by then with the licensed immigration advisor that had been set up. So Monica, who was helping me out. And so I was emailing her, like, is everything okay? And you're like, yeah, it'll be fine. And she'd send out some emails and get the right people to submit the right things to make it so that they could kind of encourage the process on, and ended up reaching out to the DHB to send through some documents to say, hey, we're waiting on Terri. It's a high needs position. Can you like maybe speed up a little bit? To the Nursing Council, which eventually were responsive. And after, like, I think you and Monica and a bunch of people all came together, and I felt like, oh, I've got a whole team working for me to like help get the Nursing Council pushed so I can get a license. And then I had a whole team working for me, working with the immigration people, because when it comes to a patient who's trying to crash and burn and cardiac arrest, I'm your girl. I feel totally calm. I can make that work. But like a pile of documents and dealing with like international agencies and trying to get bureaucrats to say yes to things, that was crazy stressful. And so I had people who could do that for me, and that was incredible. The entire process from start to finish, I attempted to do CGFNS in July and missed hitting a button, so it didn't go anywhere until August. But I did that all the way to getting my visa in late February, or in February. So, and then landed on the ground about a month after that. So it was July to March, essentially, is the process in terms of when paperwork was happening. I got all the paperwork officially started in August, and I got through CGFNS, so that first step in the nursing license things, in like October, I think, and then submitted to the Nursing Council in October, and that got approved at the last day of January, I think, and then everything from there was visas. And I will say exactly what you said. I don't think I could be here now if I hadn't worked with you, because there were too many steps. It was too easy to miss one thing. It was too easy to have one thing you have to respond to, miss a button, answer a question incorrectly, not know the right next step. And on top of that, it took me so much longer to get here than I expected, that I had a lot of fear about that job offer being rescinded, because it is not normal to have a job offer that then they will wait 6 months for you to come.
They waited for months. I don't understand. It's not like the American, work ethic. And I landed and I was to work within 10 days. And everyone said, why did you wait longer? I'm like, because they had already waited this long for me, and like, oh, you could have gotten adjusted. I'm like, this is the American work ethic. You just hit the ground running. You know, you only have 4 weeks off for a C-section, get back to work, you know, like that kind of attitude. And that's not how it is here.
No.
Well, and like
I think,
me,
yeah, the whole, I mean, oh, sorry to interrupt, Terri.
if
But
you
that,
don't say yes to a job and start it within about 2 to 6 weeks, like that job's gone. So the idea that you kept it was amazing. And I landed and thought I should be at work in 48 hours. I was freaked out when they gave, they're like, no, not come for a week. It was so, there's things that are so different that way. The expectations are so much.
I think the expectation is different, obviously, with international, but going back to the process, it is a long, complicated process, but it's not one that you have to do on your own. When you use somebody like us, like Working In, we can help you through that process. And I think the other important thing, which you sort of have both alluded to, is you can do a lot of those things concurrently. So the key is to get started on your registration, because you need to show an employer that you're committed and motivated in order for them to invest time in talking to you. But then you can start getting documents ready for visas, so they're ready to go when you get the signed job offer, and sort of put it all together, which is great. And that's, I think, probably one of the things that I'm most proud of at Working In, is that we can offer that whole service to you. I can look after the recruitment side. Monica and her team can look after the visa side, and have it all working together. And also, because we got to, you know, you guys were both working while you're trying to do this back at home. So it's hard to have all of that time to do it all yourself. So which is great. And it's like I say, different journeys, different hiccups along the way. But ultimately,
it was like this, all this paperwork and everything was getting ready for the actual visa application, and it was like all ready. So the second that the nursing license came through, then boom, everything went forward. And that was so much easier. And it had that feeling of like everybody had everything ready for me. So the second it was ready, we could just go, and you didn't have to have a giant big, like, now mobilizing, how do I do it? It was the best. So I was never trained on my own. Only
now we've got 5 minutes left. I want to have a quick talk on cost of living, because I know lots of people will be like, I'm getting paid a lot of money, perhaps in the US or UK, and I'm a bit worried because I've converted it into New Zealand dollars and seen what nurses get paid there, and it's not going to be as much. What's
It's relative to where you live, and I feel like the quality is better. Like the food is better. It's not made with high fructose corn syrup. It's made with sugar. And all of us feel better digestively, just energy wise, just our bodies feel better being here. I remember buying a hamburger, pre-made hamburger patties, and we grilled them. And my husband kept saying, this has to be pork. And I kept saying, no, this is beef. And he said, how is it not flaming up? There's not an ounce of fat. It's just all top grade meat. So you're paying just ever so slightly more, but you're getting much better quality. And the bread is the same, and milk is relatively the same. And you don't have to buy, hundreds of dollars of school supplies. It's an expectation that the school even provides, like my daughter, lunch. And it's just amazing. And I read somewhere, someone said like, oh, the housing is so much. Like Omaha, Nebraska is the largest city next to where I lived. And you're buying homes in the middle of the corn, where it gets to, 115 in the summer, negative 25 in the winter, Fahrenheit. And you're paying $400,000 for a house there. Well, you're going to pay $600,000 here, but it's 100% Gold Coast. Like you get mountains and you get oceans. Like I get off of work at 3:30, and then we can go pop off, to the beach, go gemstone hunting, down at Birdling Beach, and then go off for a nice dinner at Little River, like the next door cafe. It's just insane. Like you're paying for that work-life balance, I think. And I think it's all relative, to what you're spending. Like right now, my husband's not even working, and there's 6 of us, and we're affording it. So it can be done. Like my husband is stay-at-home dad.
What about you, Terri?
Super brass tacks, because you are potentially a 2-income household. It was just me. And just to make it super simple, I made $100,000 in Seattle. I make $100,000 here. if I was still buying things in Seattle, that wouldn't work out so great because of the exchange rate. But I'm not in Seattle. I'm here. So my buying power within the economy is exactly the same. I make 100 grand, I make 100 grand. But because of the difference in how things go here, I have more money that I can put in my savings every day or every week than I did in the States. I have more money for travel than I did in the States. So even though, like she's alluding to, food's more expensive, it's also much better quality. I find one-to-one expenses, it's the same. If you're not going because you are somewhere like Seattle where you make a lot of money, you will make the same money here. Don't freak out about it. It's all gonna be okay. I did not have a drop in my lifestyle. It is the same. And for you, I think it's the same to slightly better, I'm guessing, because you don't make that much money in nursing in Nebraska, I don't think.
No, we don't make very much money at all in the Midwest. And like, I'll also pitch this, the cars here are insanely cheap. It's a third of the cost for a third row vehicle. And it's also gas efficient. I'm having a Honda and a Toyota, and I bought both of them for the price of a Ford Expedition in Iowa. It's insanity. Like you might spend more on A, but you're going to save a ton of money on B. And you have to remember that these are in kilograms. So when you're looking at a 10-kilogram bag of potatoes and you're like, oh, that's a lot of money. It's only 10. And it's like, oh, but that's 22 pounds. You know, like that's a lot of potatoes. You just have to look at it relatively.
Yeah.
And like car insurance, I pay like $30 in car insurance here. And you don't just because I wanted to. It was like $250 in Seattle because everybody breaks into cars there. So it's like just a totally different experience.
Totally different. And they just loan you a car to get over to license it. And they're like, here you go, just have a loaner car. I'm like, for 6 human people? And they're like, yeah, just take it. I'm like, what is happening? Like the level of trust that everyone has for each other. They're like, no, you won't steal it. Like, don't take the car. It's just, yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap, Terri, to wrap up,
that people are going to be good people. It's great.
Yeah. What do you think? Just last statement each. Biggest challenge and the best piece. So, what's been your biggest challenge? Because I think we've talked a lot about some highlights in coming here, and also what's your one piece of advice to somebody who's sitting here listening to this and wondering, should I or shouldn't I?
I think challenging just logistically with the 4 kids, like trust working in, trust Monica. They will help you get like your proof of relationship letters. They will write out what you need to provide, like for your relationship with your spouse or your partner, just to show that you're together, and for everything you need for your children. And everyone here is super laid back. Like the schools weren't like, you better get here. You're going to get charged with truancy. Like in the US, you're going to have a lawsuit. We're going to come for you. They're like, get here when you're ready. What? Like you need an address to have the school. And we're like, but we should be there by now. And it's just, you have to let go of that anxiety and trust that it is that laid back. You're not going to get in trouble. The other thing is sell everything. You don't need to bring anything with you. Just sell it all. Take the money and then buy things here. Because I'll tell you right now, we furnished an entire rental home, all brand new everything. Like all of you have to buy your fridge, your appliances, everything. $5,000.
Wow.
$5,000, 6 human people. And I mean, you couldn't even get a fridge in the US for $5,000 right now. I think it's just, you have to believe, you have to take a jump and tell your family, like, it is 2024. Like we can communicate via the internet. We can talk. Right. Like I had a FaceTime with my mom this morning. There's not barriers to communication. It's not the 1800s. Like you can still have your friends and still have conversations. You just have to learn the time differences.
Yeah. How about you, Terri? Thanks, Sam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's similar in that there is a point at which you take the leap of faith, embrace the adventure that it is, be willing to step out into the void and trust that it's all going to be okay. As a person who is moving solo in the world, whether I was in the States or here, I know how to problem solve things. That doesn't disappear. And I have the support system that Working In gave me. So that's part of why I say I could not have been here. I do not think I could have done this without that existing support, so that I actually had some help getting there, getting here. So embrace the adventure, just step into the void. But the other piece is look at the opportunity cost of not doing it right now.
Yep.
Right now, nothing that you're going through at the hospital is going to change if something doesn't change. So if you're thinking about coming here, there is a reason, and that reason, that matters. And there is nothing that is worse than regret. And regret is what comes of not acting. Once that's there, once that seed is planted, it's because you know something's wrong and you want something better. So honor that part of yourself that deserves that better thing. And then embrace the adventure, embrace the opportunity, walk into the void, make yourself feel a little better by having people like working in who got your back. So everything will be okay. But that would be the best advice I'd give. And then the other thing is, it will be scary, and scary is okay. It will also be okay. The people here will have your back. It will be strange, and it'll be okay. So if you can just like hold on to that, medicine is medicine. Patients are the same humans. The equipment is the same equipment. You will sort it out. It will all be okay. So I know that's maybe simple, but that's my best advice.
Ah, that's fabulous from both of you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having a chat. I do enjoy our chats. We have had a previous one in the car park of Sam's new work, which was great. But it's also good just to have it so we can share it with others that are thinking of taking the plunge, like you both have, and to be able to see that you've both survived in quite different circumstances, and you're both enjoying it. No doubt challenges along the way, but I'm really pleased with the decision that you made. And like you said, Terri, the opportunity is there now. That everything's just for now, so things could change. Nurses are still on the green list, as are a lot of other health professions, but you don't know what's going to change. So the opportunity to come over to get your residency visas like you both have is there. So I think it's the time is right. So really appreciate the information that you've given, and I know our listeners will no doubt have more questions, and we'd be quite happy to answer those. And I can probably even refer you on to Terri and or Sam if you've got any other
well, specific. And I'll take a look also in the comments. So if you like this, if you have any questions about what's going on, if you want more details about what's going on and the questions that you have, mark it in the comments below. Sam and I will take a look at it as well, so you can get our answers directly. But also contact Working In, because they can hook you up with answers, whether they're from us or somebody who knows more. So give us a thumbs up and a like too, because that tells the algorithm to send this around. So nurses like me don't have to search for like an hour and a half to find information.
Perfect.
Found you. It's a sign. Contact them. Contact us. Like, we can tell you from real people perspectives. Like, it's not impossible. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I swear to goodness, like, it's real.
Except them. I didn't have anybody helping me except them. So like, reach out. You can do this. You got it. You got it. You can do it.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to your days. I can see the sun shining there, Sam, behind you in Christchurch, which is gorgeous. Is it a good day in Greymouth? Sunny in Greymouth?
Sunny. It is sunny. There's no rain. It's very rainy, kind of like Seattle here. It's awesome.
Love it.
Okay. Take care, and I'll look forward to our next chat.
Yes. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you both.
Bye.
Thank you.